The 1950s British home, a place built on coal fires and tea. Step inside a 1950s British home, and you'll find a world that smells faintly of coal smoke and freshly brewed tea. Life was modest but full of warmth, the kind that came not from central heating but from crackling fires, and good company families were rebuilding after the hardships of the war, finding pride in small comforts, from the steady hum of the wireless to the kettle's whistle at tea time. It was a period when simplicity, routine, and neighborly spirit defined what it meant to feel truly at home. Warmth by the hearth. The coal fire was the beating heart of the 1950s British home. Before central heating, almost every household relied on open fires, burning coal or coke. They weren't just practical, they were emotional centers. Families gathered around the hearth to talk, listen to radio dramas, or quietly mend clothes as the fire glowed against the polished brass fender. Mornings began with cleaning out the ashes, laying new kindling, and coaxing the flames back to life. Evenings were spent basking in its warmth, the flickering light casting shadows on wallpaper patterned with roses or ivy. Though television began to appear mid-decade, the coal fire never lost its throne. It represented security, a steady rhythm of daily life in post-war Britain. Tea, Britain's eternal comfort. If coal warmed the home, tea warmed the soul. In the 1950s, Britain consumed more tea per person than any other country, nearly 10 pounds a year each. Tea wasn't just a drink, it was a way of life. A fresh pot marked every occasion, neighbors visiting, family meals, and long afternoons of conversation. Popular brands like PG Tips, Tai Fu, and Brook Bond became staples. The ritual was simple but sacred, boiling the kettle on a gas stove, warming the pot, and pouring the amber liquid into fine china cups. Milk first or last sparked lively debate, but one truth held firm. No problem was too big that it couldn't be softened by a cuppa. Even as rationing dragged on until 1954, tea remained untouchable. It symbolized calm, civility, and community, the one luxury everyone could afford to share. Modest homes with big dreams. Most British families in the 1950s lived in small semi-detached or terraced houses built before the war. Rooms were compact, windows drafty, and baths shared, but there was pride in keeping everything spotless. Housewives polished furniture, beat rugs, and took joy in neatness. Meanwhile, the government's rebuilding effort transformed skylines. Council estates like Harlow, Wythenshawe, and Beacontree offered modern amenities: indoor toilets, running water, and small gardens. For many working families, these new homes were the dream made real. Decor mixed practicality with charm. Walls bloomed with floral wallpaper. Furniture was sturdy. Utility design and lace curtains filtered the daylight. As prosperity grew toward the decade's end, modernity crept in. Sleek sideboards, pastel kitchens, and formica tables became the hallmarks of the hopeful new age. The kitchen, command center of the housewife. The kitchen was a workshop, command post, and family hub rolled into one. Most were small but efficient, with enamel sinks, a gas oven, and a single bulb hanging overhead. Housewives, the unsung engineers of domestic life, managed it all without modern conveniences. Few homes had fridges. Most relied on cool pantries and meat safes. Laundry was done by hand in a copper tub, wrung out with a mangle, and hung to dry in the garden. Meals were hearty and resourceful. Shepherd's pie, stew, toad in the hole, or corned beef hash. These dishes stretched ingredients while keeping families well fed. By the late 1950s, a wave of new domestic gadgets, electric mixers, vacuum cleaners, and twin-tub washers promised to lighten the load. Advertising depicted cheerful housewives in aprons, smiling beside their gleaming new appliances. But even with all the progress, one ritual never changed: pausing for tea in the middle of a busy day. The wireless, the television, and the evening routine. Entertainment. In 1950s, Britain began with the wireless. Radios filled homes with music, comedy, and voices that felt like friends. Families tuned in to The Archers, Woman's Hour, and ITMA, often while huddled near the fire. Then television arrived and changed everything. In 1950, only around 350,000 homes owned a set. But after the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953, millions rushed to buy one by 1960. Nearly three-quarters of households had a TV. Evenings shifted from radio to flickering screens showing Hancock's Half Hour and The Benny Hill Show. Yet the coal fire and teapot stayed central to family life. Whether gathered around the radio or the television, the essence of home was still warmth, togetherness, and a comforting brew. Bedrooms, blankets, and hot water bottles. Bedrooms of the 1950s were plain but cozy. Heavy blankets, floral eiderdowns, and perhaps a patchwork quilt kept the cold at bay. Central heating was rare. So many relied on electric heaters or hot water bottles wrapped in wool. Children's rooms carried simple joys: shelves of comics like Eagle or the Beano, model trains, and treasured dolls. The air was filled with the sound of wind outside, and the comforting tick of an alarm clock. Parents' rooms were equally modest, often featuring dark wooden wardrobes and framed wedding photographs. There was an art to staying warm: closing curtains before dusk, piling on bedclothes, and sometimes even sleeping in socks. Cold nights didn't dampen spirits. They made the morning's first cup of tea feel like heaven. Laundry lines, gardens, and community life. Monday was wash day, and everyone knew it. The smell of soap flakes drifted across streets as women boiled clothes in coppers and wrung them out with hand-cranked mangles. A breezy day was a blessing, perfect for drying sheets on backyard lines that stretched like bunting across rows of homes. Gardens were small but cherished. They grew cabbages, carrots, and runner beans beside neat flower beds. Some families kept chickens for eggs, while children played hopscotch or marbles nearby. Neighbors leaned over fences, swapping stories or lending sugar. Doors were often left unlocked, and children roamed freely from one house to another. This sense of community was the soul of 1950s British life, built on trust, friendship, and endless cups of tea shared between front steps. The dream of modern living. By the end of the 1950s, Britain was changing fast. Rising wages, new appliances, and credit schemes gave families their first taste of modern comfort. Television and advertising painted visions of brighter, easier lives, open-plan homes, colorful interiors, and the promise of living better. Yet even as modernity arrived, the essence of the 1950s British home remained: humble, warm, and grounded. Coal fires slowly gave way to electric heating, but people still gathered for tea at day's end. Community spirit, politeness, and thrift defined the era, leaving a legacy that shaped Britain for generations. Today, the nostalgia for that time endures. The glow of the fire, the chatter of the wireless, and the feeling that no matter how small the house, it was filled with heart. The 1950s British home was more than a place to live. It was a sanctuary of comfort and tradition, a space rebuilt from hardship and sustained by simple rituals. Coal fires and tea defined the rhythm of life, while resilience and community kept spirits high. It was a time when small homes held big dreams, and warmth came from more than the hearth. It came from people. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.